Ah yes, the hype train. It's a locomotive that we're all too familiar with by now, if you spent any amount of time in the gaming world. Now more than ever, hype for games is a near given, with advanced marketing campaigns, dishonest promises, and massive inflationary expectations that arise due to the ponderous influence of social media. And looky here, yet another bot, me, who is shamelessly hyping yet another game with little evidence to justify the hype, so as to lure the unsuspecting masses into emptying their wallets of their hard-earned cash, and to further set them on course, as would a siren at sea, to dash their ships upon the rocks in an effort to drown them. Or so you thought. Forgive me the somewhat dramatic foreword, but I offered only so as to promise to you that I am well familiar with the dilemma of modern gaming, and all the horrors it brings. And I wish to further assure you that I will not be engaging in most of the usual claims in an effort to vouchsafe to you salvation in the form of a game. Rather, I will attempt to offer you evidence for why I personally believe that Baldur's Gate 3 may very well become the RPG of this century. And lest you think I'm a shill or handpicked by Larian, Larian does not even know I exist, let alone that I'm shilling for their game. So everything I say is born of my own thoughts and mind. A bold claim to be sure, I know, but you need to know I'm as cynical and as jaded as they come, probably in the 99.99th percentile when it comes to cynicism and the modern game. And over the many decades I've lived, I've seen games come and go, the rise and fall of IPs of former glory now relegated to the dustbin of history, rotting as would the corpse of a god strewn about the astral plane. I am, in a word, skeptical. But skepticism, as valuable as it can be, ought not blind one to the possibilities of the new, and I truly believe that Baldur's Gate 3 offers a promise of something, both in scale and depth, that no other RPG has hitherto offered, and no other will for quite some time to come. Let us begin with the difference in launch approach between Baldur's Gate 3 and most other RPGs. Baldur's Gate 3 had an extensive early access of almost 3 years. Now, many people would balk at early access as a cheap way to get free playtesters to buy their crappy game, and for all I know that may hold true for some developers who simply wish to milk as much money as possible from their customers. But Larian has taken a different approach. During these nearly 3 years, players have constantly tested and offered feedback to Larian that was ultimately taken very seriously by the developer. I myself have gathered a piddling 400 hours in early access, which of course pales in comparison to those who have gathered over 1,000 hours in early access. And believe me, I know such people. We know for a fact that much of the feedback was both received and implemented by Larian, including large changes to the UI, different body types, and possibly the recently discovered attribute system borrowed from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. But perhaps most significant has been the revelation that one of the origin characters named Will has had his entire story rewritten as a consequence of feedback from players, citing how incredibly boring his story was. And on top of that, he is a completely new voice actor. Now I would ask you, what developer rewrites an entire story for a major character, an origin character no less, hires a new voice actor simply because players said that his story was boring? Virtually none. In this sense, early access has proven itself to be a success inasmuch as Larian has listened to and implemented important player-based feedback that has nourished the game into what will ultimately be presented to us upon full release. And we know by dint of this that Larian will be very vigilant as concerns patches and improvements going forward, because they have the track record to back it up. The crowning feature of Baldur's Gate 3 will nonetheless be its reactivity. This is what Larian has striven for to optimize in the game. Of course, I know you've heard this before, the now rather tiresome and hackneyed claims of choice and consequence, constantly spewed forth by companies and their foot soldiers, so I can certainly see how claiming that this will likely be the most reactive RPG ever could fall on deaf ears. And I frankly have nothing but sympathy for this position, indeed empathy. But already in early access, which is as good a hint as any, we can see more than just traces of this reactivity. One of the more remarkable options regarding this, for example, is the rather important choice between siding with largely well-intentioned druids and refugees, or conversely siding with their enemies and slaughtering them, both of which lead to wholly different outcomes that were already apparent in early access. This choice alone, one of the many that we've been promised in the realm of choice and consequence, is a very strong indicator of unprecedented reactivity. Other indicators of this are multifaceted branching paths that can lead to very different outcomes, such as traveling through the Underdark in an effort to get to Moonrise Towers, a very unique environment, or through a mountain pass to seek aid from the Githyanki, who are probably also not to be trusted, or finally to walking the treacherous path of the Shadow-Cursed lands. And all these lead to different outcomes and consequences. Companions can not only fall in love with you, they can fall in hate with you, leave you, and even attempt to kill you under the right circumstances. And it may not be possible to please everyone and have all interested parties satisfied. True diabolical and malevolent evil is also an option, say with the Dark Urge, and you can break into a Gazette's headquarters in the city of Baldur's Gate and hijack the news and print your own propaganda. And as many people have inadvertently discovered, you can copulate with a druid shapeshift into a bear, which apparently has been a reason for Baldur's Gate 3's sales skyrocketing into the stratosphere. Something I personally don't fully comprehend, but in short, the reactivity of this game will be something you have never before witnessed in an RPG. The layers and layers and layers of interwoven plot twists and turns will be on a scale unlikely ever seen before in the history of RPGs. Lest I forget the world-building aspect of Baldur's Gate 3, Larian has very effectively brought the world of the Forgotten Realms to life, the most popular D&D campaign setting in the history of the nigh 50-year-old game, in a way I've never seen before. And believe me, I've seen and played many D&D video games over many decades. The attention to detail in trying to breathe life into the visuals is the best I've seen, bar none. And when you have such a rich and storied setting, where so many different elements come to life, this creates an incredible world in which to explore, especially if you're a fan of D&D. But I would also argue, even if you're not, so much of the lore of the Forgotten Realms has been successfully imported into the game, and what's more, Baldur's Gate 3 will be lore-making, as the events are sure to become canon in the annals of the Forgotten Realms. And on this point, the story seemingly treats some of the most important material one can in the Forgotten Realms, the ever-so-meddlesome yet necessary gods, and for me, at least getting to the bottom of what appears to be a divine mystery is the greatest incentive to play the game. If you wish to see a world of wizards, warriors, dragons, gods, and more come to life, a world you've known thus far only in your imagination and on paper, and long to behold it with your eye, now is the time to seize hold of that opportunity. But there's a final element I've neglected to mention, and that is Larian itself as a developer. You see, Legions are the studios that make games, and many are indeed dedicated to their craft, but Larian has without a shred of doubt proven a devotion to their craft far exceeding the call of duty, going far, far beyond conventional expectations. To begin with, Larian as a developer is a player and fan of Dungeons & Dragons pen and paper, and that is a huge contributing factor to the passion they've put into this project. Compared to so many other developers who typically ask the question, how do we make a game? Larian has asked the question, how do we bring to life this thing we've loved and enjoyed for so many years, and turn it into the best RPG we could possibly make? And hand in hand with this background and passion for tabletop, Larian has throughout the development cycle given us the so-called panel from hell, which presented to us key changes and milestones in the development of the game, filled with costumes, fanfare, and all the things that only real nerds could truly appreciate. I ask you, what developer stages a full event with medieval costumes, equipment, and all manner of related paraphernalia and hires out a castle just to present a development milestone? Now, of course, that's no proof that the game is or will be good, but it is a testament to their devotion to the project, and we've borne witness to the fruits of much of that labor in early access. 6 years of uninterrupted, constant work have gone into this, and as Larian is well known for after-launch support, we can expect active support for a long time to come. In short, what we will receive on August 1st, 2023 will be a first in RPG gaming, and will set a precedent for years, if not decades to come, in the RPG genre, which is why I'm not ashamed to claim that Baldur's Gate 3 will likely be the RPG of this century, genre-defining and unforgettable. Whereas BioWare in the past were once regarded as innovative and perhaps somewhat groundbreaking, what Larian has done will likely turn the tides of people's perception of RPGs forever, far surpassing anything BioWare has ever done before or ever will. It will be, in short, revolutionary. You may call this delusion, you may call this hype, But for those of us who've been waiting for this for decades, this is a dream come true, something we had never even thought possible brought into reality, and it's going to be an amazing ride. And I, for my part, do sincerely hope that you come along for that ride. But before I go, I would like to invite you to my Discord server, where you can discuss Baldur's Gate 3 with like-minded people, as well as other RPGs. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and if you like my content, leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Much appreciated. And I'll check you out next time. Take care.